I want to tell you about the best part of my week. It all started with an email. You got the email too. It's from a manager and it's about a new employee on their team, and they'll say, "Hi, here's a new employee. Let's call them Sasha. Sasha's going to be working on this. Welcome Sasha to Microsoft, and here's a few words from Sasha." And then Sasha will write, "Hi, I'm Sasha. I'm super excited to be here." See, I already got the lingo thing down. I'm from here. I went to this school. I studied this. At home, there's either a mate or a kid or a plant or a pet or some combination of that. On the weekend, I like to root for this sports team. I like to cook this and go hiking. Everyone always mentions hiking, especially if they're coming to the Northwest. Now, this has nothing to do with Sasha. I'm excited that Sasha has a great job here at Microsoft. But there's two things I realized. One, I'm probably never going to work with Sasha. I'm in a big group, Marvel, and they're just in some part of the organization that I just don't work with that often. So I'll probably never work with them and probably never meet them. But the other thing was, I suddenly knew more about Sasha's background than I know with many of the folks I work day in, day out here at Microsoft. And I wanted to do something about it. Hi, my name is Doug Thomas. I'm a content designer on the Marvel team, and I've worked with several groups in Marvel, in microlearning and video, and these teams come together and flow and change, and some people I've known for a long time, some people are new, and some people I've just really never got to know. Also, I'm one of those folks that kind of missed the office when we all started working from home. And it's the little things. It was meeting someone in the kitchen for a few minutes and talking to them. Or those few minutes we have before a meeting where we're in the hallway or in the room waiting for it to start. And we just start chatting about things. I really miss that. And as we work more hybrid, I mean, before the pandemic, Marvel was pretty much a Redmond company, and now we have a good amount of people in Atlanta, so we're always going to be hybrid. So we've been trying to figure out how to connect over this space and distance. I guess that's the same thing. And the Marvel Cultural Council is on how to do group events online. And I thought, you know, if I interview somebody to get to know them, that's not really a group event. But what if I interview them with an audience, like an old-fashioned radio interview? People could listen in or listen to a recording. And when I started doing this, I found out people enjoyed these and enjoyed, like I did, finding out more about the people they work with. And cross conversations would start I had nothing to do with. People would say, "Wow, I didn't know that person was from my hometown or went to that college or we had the same degree." So it started conversations going. So I want to tell you about the celebrity interview and why I think we should be doing it. Besides helping that whole hybrid situation, content designers and designers in general have been doing more and more interviews. It's been quite important here in Microsoft. There's a whole customer-driven area that is putting on events so we can talk to customers directly. And I reached out to those folks and said, look, why are we investing so much time and I assume money into this whole thing, like the coffee with customers, which I recommend you do, and even lead a table. And yeah, it's a little more work than you think, but I think you should do it. But those folks came back and they said, the reason that we interview is that we can find out the why. Metrics and verbatims can tell you a lot about things that people do, but here you have a chance to talk to someone directly about the why, maybe why they use our products or why they use our services or why they don't. So the why becomes important for us to work with them. So I thought, look, if we're supposed to interview more often, maybe we can also practice it. That's why I think this program should be rolled out to other groups, because we can work on our interview tactics and techniques, and we can also help break down the borders that hybrid work environments are bringing out. Now, one thing is, this wasn't my job. I didn't have a lot of time and money. I mean, people who do this for a living, they have staffs and they have budget, and I didn't have any of that. But I found a secret weapon, and it's LinkedIn. About 95% of the people have really good LinkedIn profiles, and they can instantly get a snapshot of their life. And I cut and paste that into OneNote and kind of look through it. And then I can do some searching. So if I take their college and their name, or if I can find out their hometown and their name, I can find certain things. Yeah, it's a little snooping around, but I'm not digging that deep to find out. And so if I did that for maybe 20 minutes, I could kind of work and have a structure of what questions to ask them. And then the way I work is I do a lot of research for most things I do, and then I go and percolate it. An old-fashioned coffee maker, percolating it is what I call it. I walk the dog and think things out loud. So I did that with these questions about how to ask questions differently to this person. And then the day of the interview, I take another 10 minutes and kind of refine the questions, kind of look through everything. So it's about a half an hour of prep for each of the interviews, which I thought I could easily do. Now, what to ask? I didn't want to talk about work. I mean, we talk about work all the time. It might creep into the conversation. Some people I know have had kind of really great careers that they've really changed what they do at Microsoft. It might be interesting to talk about, but that's not the main thing. I found out accidentally what I was really working on was the question of what brought them to the front door of Microsoft. A lot of different ways to climb a mountain to get to Microsoft, and I'm amazed all the different various backgrounds I get, and that's kind of what, if there had to be a overarching thing that I found out, that's kind of what the interviews become. I didn't want to just ask about their hobbies or what do you do? I mean, you can save those questions. I didn't want to ask the same questions everyone gets. It's kind of like filling out a form, and I think people would prepare more for it. Now, you have a few standard questions, like I ask, where you're from. That could be one place or several. That leads to other questions. What'd your parents do? Big family, small family? What'd your family kind of do? What were you doing in high school besides taking classes? That's one I always get to. And I try to find things to ask another way. Like instead of asking hobbies or what they like to do, it's like if maybe there's a family and I say, look, you have a babysitter. What are you going to go do on a Saturday night? Or if they travel a lot, instead of saying, hey, what's your favorite country? I'll say, what's the country you visited that you want to go back to again the most? Because that just leads to a little bit, I think, a more very different answer. The other thing is I don't try to pry too much in their current family life. I want to interview the employee and not necessarily the family. Even though some people, and I include myself, a lot of who I am is my family. But again, I only have 25 minutes. I'm not trying to pry. But the question I ask is, who's at home with you? And that way they can talk about family members that are there, they're left. They can talk about their plants or their dogs or their mates. It's up to them. It's kind of like a biography. Biographies usually are in chronological order with a few ins and outs and different turns here and there. But there's always a kicker at the beginning of the biography, some highlight. And that's what I wanted to find, was some sort of unique question, a kicker. Not too emotional. I'll get to that in a moment. But I learned this from a man named Warren Etheridge. He lives in the Puget Sound area, and he came out a couple years ago to work with us. And one of the things he talked about was he always wanted some kicker, some killer question at the beginning to kind of wake the person up to know that this is going to be a little bit different. Now, again, I'll get to why I can't get that interesting, but I want to get a unique question. I usually write it out word for word. I mean, when we've worked in writing and video, we work a lot on those first few seconds, so I wanted to do the same thing for the interview. So I write everything down in OneNote, and that's, kind of preparing for the interview. So we invite teammates to come and listen in live. We use Teams, and you can set up Teams. There's options you can use. Anyone can use these. You can turn off the whole announcement thing, so who's entered the meeting and who's exited. You can turn off chat. You can turn off video. You can turn off microphones. Now, I leave them on because if there's a few minutes of cross chatter that we want to start, if I get there early and people just want to talk, maybe they'll say something like, "Oh, I hope you interview me next." No one's ever done that. So if it got too many people, though, you could turn off the mics and just open my mic and the person that I'm interviewing. One of the other things that Warren Etheridge said that really resonated with me, he said, look, a good interview is a conversation. And a conversation is an interview. I'd never heard of that second part before, that a conversation is an interview. And I actually started using it at the dinner table. I started asking a little more probing questions or go a little deeper. If even one of my teenagers had said something that I wanted, just for fun, let's try to work on that. It's because the most important thing in conversation is listening. It's the most important thing in an interview. It might be the most important thing in life, is listening. So I may get to all my questions, I may not to, but I want to listen to the person and go down those avenues. If something more interesting, oh my gosh, get a little more information on something, just like I would in a conversation. So we're in a data-driven company, a data-driven org, so I do have some numbers. The most number one problem that people say is, I can't do this, I'll just be too nervous. So I asked the people who had done it, I had them fill out a form and say, look, how nervous were you at the beginning, the middle, and the end of an interview? And, 20% of the people weren't nervous at all. They were just fine talking. I would fall into that category. About 60% of the people said they were really nervous at the beginning, but within a minute or 2 or 5, they were just fine, which is great. What was really surprising was 20% of the people said they were nervous throughout the interview. I didn't notice it, and I don't think anyone listening in noticed. And all 3 of these groups of people said they would recommend doing it, and they had a good time. So I kind of thought I was onto something. There is these are the few warnings they have. Look, I'm not Howard Stern. We're not the New York Times. I'm not trying to get someone to cry on camera like some of these professional interviews want to get those ratings, right? Look, the people that get interviewed have been interviewed a lot of times before. It might be part of their personal brand to get interviewed, or they're, most likely they're just trying to promote something, right? They're trying to get a little do-re-mi from everybody, and that's why they're being interviewed. And the folks we're talking to are our coworkers. I mean, the people that will listen in are going to be working with them in the next days or even the next hour. So I'm trying to make it a safe space. That's why I only ask for volunteers. A lot of people say, hey, you should go interview X. And I'm like, hey, well, if you talk to X, let them know that you had a good time and then maybe they'll along. But I want to keep it to volunteers only because I want it to be this safe space. And I give them a tool for that. I'll contact them the day or the day of or the day before and just remind them, no video, relax. If you have a place with good sound, have a good time. And I give them this. I say, look, at any time, you feel free to say, I'd rather not get into that. I'm dealing with people's pasts. I don't know if there's landmines or where they are. I don't want them to feel they have to stumble upon those just to talk to me. Again, these aren't stars that are trying to promote some big movie. They're just your coworkers. So I want it to be a safe space. At the same time, I called it the celebrity interview because I think everyone deserves that type of spotlight. I mean, a lot of these folks that we talk to at Microsoft aren't in leadership positions or even management where they're talking to a lot of folks. They're usually doing the listening in meetings or just in their work. So to give everyone an extended amount of time to talk about themselves, I think it's a gift. I mean, I feel it's a gift for me and I think the other people that listen in. And that's why it's a favorite part of my week. So yeah, I'd like to interview you. If you're in Marvel, reach out, let's set it up. If you're not in Marvel, reach out and let's set it up. We can invite your teammates to listen in. And if you want to start a program like this in your group, let's talk. I can help a lot more besides this short talk. If you're external to Microsoft and want to set something like this up, reach out to me. You can find me on LinkedIn. If you're internal, you can go to aka.ms/celebrity and sign up for our team site. That way you can be notified for upcoming interviews and you can hear all the previous ones up in the tab. There's a stream channel that has all the interviews so you can listen and hear about the people you know or the people you don't know or the people you thought you knew really well. For example, I've had 2 office mates the last couple of years, both online and back in Red when we were physically together, Jack and Vivian. And yeah, for the first year, Erin, she wasn't on our team, but she was a roommate too. And contractually, I have to mention Erin she has to make a cameo in all videos. But Jack and Vivian, I've gotten to know really well. I mean, we worked on the same type of content, so we'd help each other out, cover for each other. And yeah, through that time in a small office, we learn what they were doing on the weekend and their interests and their families and things like that. So I thought I knew them pretty well. And then I interviewed Vivian. Now, I think if you knew Vivian and you know me, you wouldn't find a lot of similarities. But I found out that at age 16, she had the same dream I had when I was 16, which was we both wanted to be on stage doing musicals. I don't think I would ever have found that out except for interviewing her. Another thing I found out, I interviewed a longtime leader here at Microsoft, been here for a couple decades, and they said, look, years from now, people won't remember the particular problem we were trying to solve on a given day, or the bug, or the business opportunity we were pursuing. They're going to remember the people that they worked with. I think any day that we get to know more about the people we work with is a good day. And that way we can find out about all the Vivians and even all the Sashas. Thank you.